When you think of the word fitness, something like this may come to mind. But when we talk about fitness in biology, we are not talking about exercise. Fitness is a measure of an organism's ability to survive and reproduce in changing environmental conditions. Fitness, in biological terms, is how well a DNA molecule can replicate itself by creating other biological macromolecules. Since organisms are essentially a collection of molecules interacting with the environment, any change or variation within these molecules can affect an organism's ability to survive and reproduce. This can be a complex topic to understand, and it will certainly be on the AP test. So, stick with us as we cover everything you need to know about fitness. This video covers section 3.7 of the AP Biology curriculum. We'll start by defining fitness and seeing how the environment helps determine an organism's overall fitness level. Then, we'll take a look at the molecular basis of fitness and how fitness can be passed from one generation to the next. After the first quiz, we'll dive into some examples of fitness, including antibiotic resistance and the peculiar case of the Galapagos finches. If you only need to review one of these sections, feel free to skip forward to the times outlined here. Otherwise, let's get started. Fitness describes an organism's ability to survive and reproduce in a given environment. Since every organism is just an expression of a DNA molecule in a particular environment, fitness is really just a measure of how well a DNA molecule can replicate itself. Let's consider a few examples. Consider these two giraffes and the single tree that makes up their environment. If both of these giraffes are adults, the giraffe on the right has a greater fitness. Can you see why? The giraffe on the left is shorter and can only reach the lowest leaves on the tree. The giraffe on the right is much taller, allowing it to reach the entire canopy. Therefore, this giraffe will be able to get more food, grow faster, and have the excess energy needed to create more offspring. But, in real life, the environment is never this simple. Let's consider another example, the fitness of mice being hunted by a fox. The fitness of each mouse, in this case, is directly related to the mouse's coat color. In this environment, mice with a white coat are easily spotted by the fox. These mice have a lower fitness because they do not blend in with their surroundings. In fact, we directly see how much lower their fitness is compared to their black counterparts by looking at what happens to the population over time. Since all of the white mice get eaten, the population has shifted to more black mice. The way populations change due to differences in fitness is known as natural selection, and we will cover evolution and natural selection further in section 7. In this section, we're going to look at how fitness is impacted not only by the molecules organisms create, but also by the environment they live in. So, what if those same mice existed in a much lighter colored environment? In this case, the black mice would be much easier to spot. Therefore, the black mice would be eaten more often by the fox, leading to a decrease in the proportion of black mice in the future population. So, what is fitness? Fitness is an expression describing how well a DNA molecule and the molecules it creates in an organism can survive and reproduce in a given environment. Think about this. Remember that goofy guy from the start of the video doing exercise? Well, that concept of fitness is not entirely separate from the concept of biological fitness that we are talking about. That guy in the video is increasing his cardio and building muscle, both of which are things that could help him survive. Plus, it may help him attract a mate and reproduce. But consider this, being in shape is only a form of fitness in the current environment and society that humans live. 1,000,000 years ago, being hungry all the time and storing lots of fat may have been an advantage. It could have helped some early humans survive times of food insecurity. Today, however, food is very easy to obtain. Many people today face the negative health consequences of obesity, like heart disease and diabetes. Considering that throughout the majority of human history, food was mostly variable, this could help explain why many people in well-developed countries get obese, even though obesity actually works against your biological fitness in the modern world. In the context of evolution, it is important that traits conferring fitness can be passed on to offspring. Otherwise, populations of organisms would never have been able to evolve. Since DNA ultimately controls the number and type of molecules in every organism, DNA directly contributes to an organism's overall fitness. Let's take a closer look at how this actually works. Consider a species of pea plant that can produce two colors of flowers, purple and white. The variation in color is caused by a single gene, the B gene. While we use shorthand like capital B or lowercase b to denote the different alleles of a gene, what's actually happening at the molecular level is literally controlling the number and type of molecules present in the cells of each flower. In this case, the capital B allele, the genetic variant codes for a protein that produces purple pigment molecules. The DNA is transcribed into RNA, translated into a protein, and released into the cytoplasm. In the cytoplasm, this protein folds into a specific shape. This enzyme is responsible for the final step in the reaction that creates pigment molecules. As it catalyzes this reaction, the newly formed products reflect purple light. As this pigment molecule fills up the cytosol within each cell, this ultimately creates purple flowers. However, the lowercase b allele actually denotes a mutation within the DNA. This mutation could be tiny, but it could be enough to cause a change in the sequence of amino acids within a protein. This change in the primary structure effectively makes the protein non-functional. Without this protein, the pigment molecules cannot be converted to their final form. Therefore, flowers with only a lowercase b allele have no way to produce purple pigment molecules, and all remain white. Now, what does all this molecular genetics have to do with fitness? Well, the color of a flower almost always affects the reproductive success of a plant. Consider why plants make flowers. To attract bees, of course. If the bees in an area are only attracted to purple flowers, the plant with the white flower mutation will have a lower chance of getting fertilized, and therefore a lower overall fitness. On the other hand, it's entirely possible that bees would be more attracted to the white flower, thereby increasing the fitness of the plant with white flowers. As this clearly demonstrates, an organism's overall fitness is a combination of both the number and types of molecules within an organism's cells and the environment it lives in. Now that we've covered the basics of fitness and how biological macromolecules control various aspects of fitness, let's see if you picked up the important points. Pause the video now and take this short quiz. You will find answers to all the questions in this video through the quick test prep link in this video's description. For the remainder of this lesson, let's consider a few examples of how fitness works in different organisms and populations. To begin, let's consider a population of organisms that doctors are constantly trying to eliminate the fitness of: bacteria. Antibiotics are designed specifically to attack specific parts of bacterial cells. For instance, the antibiotic may bind irreversibly to a bacterial cell's ribosomes, rendering it totally incapable of expressing the DNA. However, there are many mutations that could overcome this theoretical antibiotic. In fact, it's incredibly easy to see just how common some of these mutations can be, and how a single mutation can create a whole population of new organisms with a high enough fitness to survive in this new environment. Check this out.
So what we ended up building was basically a petri dish, except that it's 2 feet by 4 feet. And the way we set it up is that there are 9 bands, and at the base of each of these bands, we put a normal petri dish thick agar with different amounts of antibiotic. On the outside, there's no antibiotic, Just in from that, there's barely more than the E. coli can survive. Inside of that, there's 10 times as much, 100 times, and then finally the middle band has 1,000 times as much antibiotic. And then across the top of it, pour some thin agar that bacteria can move around in. The background is black because there's ink in it, and the bacteria appear as white. First, you see they spread in the area where there's no antibiotic, up until the point they can no longer survive. Then a mutant appears on the right. It's resistant to the antibiotic, it spreads, until it starts to compete with other mutants around it. When these mutants hit the next boundary, they too have to pause and develop new mutations to make it into 10 times as much antibiotic. And then you see the different mutants repeat this at 100. And after about 11 days, they finally make it into 1,000 times as much antibiotic as the wild type can survive. And so we can see by this process of accumulating successive mutations that bacteria, which are normally sensitive to an antibiotic, can evolve resistance to extremely high concentrations in a short period of time.
Nice. What's interesting to notice in this video is the speed at which these populations grow across the antibiotic-laced agar. Clearly, the variation present in the original population was enough to create entire populations of antibiotic-resistant bacteria in the center of the plate. Knowing when to take a break definitely increases your fitness. If you need to stretch your legs and grab some water, now is a good time. When we come back, we'll look at the diverse finches from the Galapagos Islands and what they can teach us about fitness. More often than not, the traits that contribute to an organism's fitness are controlled by many genes interacting with the environment in complex ways. No one knows this better than Peter and Rosemary Grant, two famous evolutionary biologists who have studied Darwin's finches on the Galapagos Islands for the past several decades. In fact, the Grants saw exactly how fitness works in changing environmental conditions. For instance, when the Grants first arrived on one of the Galapagos Islands, they found an environment thick with trees, shrubs, and plentiful with insects. When they started documenting the finch species present, they found that a large majority of the finches were tree finches, finches with beaks adapted to eating the insects and fruit found on the trees. However, shortly after they started documenting the finches, the island experienced a terrible drought. All of the fresh water dried up, and in a few months, the entire island had changed from a tropical paradise into a scorching desert. When the Grants remeasured the finches that were present on the island, they found almost exclusively cactus finches. The cactus finch still had a high fitness because it could easily gain access to the juicy flesh of the cactus using its large, sharp beak. Other finches, like the seed finches with round beaks, had a lower fitness after the drought because they could not obtain enough food to grow and reproduce. While beak size is a complex trait controlled by many genes, it still impacts a finch's overall fitness and only works in certain environments. Now that we have seen some examples of how fitness works in different organisms, let's see if you can answer some AP-style questions about how fitness works. Pause the video now and take this short quiz. You can find answers to all of these questions, as well as links to our other resources for this section that can help you study for the big test. Thanks for watching. Please like this video if you found it helpful and informative. Leave us any comments or questions you still have about the molecular basis of fitness. Be sure to subscribe to the Biology Dictionary YouTube channel to find all of our AP Biology videos and resources. Good luck!